What's good, everybody out there on YouTube? This is your man Shattuck Stick dropping some hot Faraga on this mic. You're watching Jet Set Shattuck, and today I want to be talking about the Nintendo Switch. Now, my last video was about an emulation handheld, but today I wanted to talk about the Switch. This is the video I've been wanting to make for a while, especially with the leaks and rumors ramping up into like an inevitable, Switch release trailer or a launch date, etc., etc. Sorry for the wait. Your boy's been fighting for his life for about a month. I work in events, so there's not much I could do. But let's dive into the Nintendo Switch 2. But I think we need to first start off with the Nintendo Switch. I think the original Nintendo Switch is, hands down one of the greatest game consoles just ever made. It combined, the home experience of playing big AAA games and the handheld experience together in one package. And I think they did it, kind of magnificently on that first go around. That's not to say that the Nintendo Switch didn't have issues, notably Joy-Con drift. The Joy-Con rails kind of sucked, and in the first iteration of the Nintendo Switch, the very first one that came out, the little stand that it came with to keep it, propped up when you wanted to play tabletop mode just kind of sucked. I actually wound up having to buy a third-party one just to make mine, work like it was supposed to. But in general, the Nintendo Switch offered a ton of amazing experiences, kind of, I guess, revived a lot of what the Wii U had to offer, while also providing, really great AAA experiences on the go, and at a, almost unbeatable price point, really. When you think about it, you can get into the Nintendo Switch library as far as like a new console goes as cheaply as $200. And if you wanted to play the big boy games on a big boy TV, you could easily buy one for $300 and now $350 with the Nintendo Switch OLED model. Just in general, Nintendo hit it out of the park on the first go around. But like I said, there are things that needed to be improved. And on top of that, the Nintendo Switch's hardware at a, system level is actually showing its age. The Nintendo Switch currently uses, I think, the Tegra X1, which came out around 2015, 2 years before the Switch release, which this isn't uncommon. Game consoles are going to use relatively recent but slightly dated hardware from the time. And I think when going with, a mobile SoC, the Tegra was kind of the way to go at the time. And in all honesty, there's still technically more untapped potential in that system on a chip. It's just that the Switch is underclocked in both the docked and handheld modes. But in general, when you think about it, a lot of people have been asking for like a Switch Pro since the Switch basically launched. And that's because of, the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One generation. We got the PS4 Pro, we got the Xbox One X, which were enhanced consoles that came out about 2 to 3 years after the original, systems released. And many people expected Nintendo to take the same route. But in all honesty, it didn't make sense. For the most part, most of the games that came to the Switch were able to run, they were relevant. And on top of that, there's just a wide variety of not only third-party games, but Nintendo games themselves to release this generation. So the Nintendo Switch one, despite its flaws, is pretty great. Now, what does Nintendo need to do for the Nintendo Switch 2 to succeed? We've gotten leaks and stuff already. There was an early leak that Nintendo was supposed to be using a Tegra T239 or whatever. We see that it's some other SoC now, or I don't know if that's the SoC now that got leaked, but we do know that it's, either a 5 or 8 nanometer chip made by Samsung. It's being made by NVIDIA. This was probably going to be a given. And patents and stuff are coming out about Nintendo using DLSS and its own AI upscaling solution to help with game resolutions and performance. On top of that, we know it's supposed to be using 12 gigabytes of RAM, which may not sound like a lot, but think about the Xbox Series S only using 10, and really that console being bottlenecked exclusively by the fact that it does not have a minimum of 12 gigabytes of RAM. And I think you look at it a different way. I think 12 gigabytes, especially for a handheld console, is pretty solid, especially since we know that there's going to be probably a lot more overhead for the Nintendo Switch. Nintendo's current operating system is pretty light, and that's running on a tablet with 4 gigabytes of RAM. So I think 12 gigabytes is actually a solid amount for the Nintendo Switch 2. In all honesty, this thing just kind of needs to be, I guess, at least 80% of the way there of what the, the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5 are offering, the base models. Because I think that's really where that sweet spot is going to be for it to last maybe as long as the current Nintendo Switch. I also think they need to offer, performance and graphics modes in games. We know that the Nintendo Switch is going to be utilizing DLSS, which I think is a huge plus considering it does a much better job than upscaling solutions like FSR, especially at those super low internal resolutions. We just had a patent leak that said that they're going to use basically this 540p to 1080p upscale in handheld mode, and it should be able to go up to 4K in docked mode, and I'm assuming that's from, you know, a 1080p class resolution. So to say that this thing won't be powerful, won't be putting in work, I think would be kind of dumb, especially if this thing comes in at under $400, which I think is another must. I think this thing needs to basically be a little bit more powerful, or basically as powerful as an Xbox Series S, and, you know, be under $400. It also needs to fix a lot of the major issues of the current Nintendo Switch. I think the biggest issues with the current Nintendo Switch are the guardrails on the side of the console. They just don't hold the Joy-Con very well. I mean, mine, especially since I have an almost launch Switch, have, you know, basically withered out. Like if I really wanted to pull a Joy-Con, whether it be a first party or third party one, out of the system, all I have to do is pull up. I don't have to press the release button. We know that these new Joy-Cons are going to be magnetic, which I think is pretty cool. It's something similar to the Legion Go, and from what I know, that is, you know, a pretty solid system of doing things. And then on top of that, I think they need to address Joy-Con drift in some way, shape, or form. Now, I think there is a rumor going around that they're using Hall sensing sticks, which I think is fine, and in all honesty would really help. I just hate having to buy controllers, and to be honest, Nintendo's not even the worst of them when it comes to this. I think the worst one is Sony, especially during the DualShock 4 generation. I bought so many DualShock 4s because they just kept getting drift, or sometimes I would go to the store and they would have drift out of the box, whether they be new or used. Actually, I had more new ones come out of the box with drift than used ones. And even now with the DualSense, the first two DualSenses I bought have drift. I only bought the DualSense Edge because I wanted to be able to easily change out the analog sticks in case they got drift. I also hope that the next Switch is at least, you know, backwards compatible with a lot of the Switch accessories. Based off of the rumors for its size, I don't think it's going to be compatible with current Joy-Cons, at least at a level of, you know, putting the Joy-Cons on the Switch itself. But hopefully you can sync and use, you know, current Nintendo Switch Joy-Cons with the new console. I just feel like it'd be a waste, especially if you most recently bought, you know, Joy-Cons for the system, for them to go to waste like that, especially the third-party ones. I just hate seeing so much e-waste nowadays. So hopefully Nintendo goes out of their way to make sure that all of the accessories are backwards compatible. We already know that games are going to be backwards compatible, but I feel like there should be some type of enhanced mode. I know the PS5 Pro recently came out and they have like this, you know, PSSR mode that you can apply to, I believe, most games, specifically like PlayStation 4 games. And even many of the PS5 games we see are getting updates for PSSR. And while it doesn't work in every game, most notably games with like ray tracing, or at least, you know, some of these games seem to break with PSSR. Hopefully we get some type of universal DLSS solution that we can apply to games, you know, at will on the Nintendo Switch 2. And hopefully we can turn it on or off per game. I'm just really hoping Nintendo hits this thing out of the park. The handheld sector is a lot bigger now. On top of the myriad of cheap emulation handhelds coming out, there's a ton of handheld PCs coming out. Now, the market for handheld PCs isn't massive. I think the Steam Deck is the one that's doing the best, and that's only sold about 3 to 4 million units, as the PC sector is not the same as the console sector. No matter what people will tell you, you know, the average person isn't going to go buy a Steam Deck. I literally, the thing that turned me off from buying a Steam Deck was seeing one in person. It's fucking massive. At that point, I feel like you should really just buy a gaming laptop, but it's still a handheld at the end of the day. Maybe not necessarily super portable, but it is a handheld, so there is appeal for it. But again, with all these gaming handhelds coming out that are getting better and better battery life as better chips from AMD and Intel come out, and then the possibility of, you know, even maybe Snapdragon / Qualcomm joining the race in that sector possibly in the future, with Windows on ARM getting better and better every day or month or whatever, I say Nintendo should probably, you know, look out. Hopefully this console is powerful enough, it's streamlined enough and easy enough for developers to utilize for them to actually, you know, create a compelling product. Also feel like the launch games have to be really, really good. I'm sensing that Metroid Prime 4 is probably going to be a launch game for the Switch 2. It's probably going to come out on the base Switch 2, but I say base Switch 2, but you know what I mean. It's probably going to come out on the base Switch, but I believe it should, it's probably also going to come out on the Switch 2, like a Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild situation. But I feel like they should have a really compelling console seller at the start that isn't, from, the Metroid franchise, because I don't think that's a compelling series for most people. The best-selling one sold like, 1 to 2 million units, or however many units Dread sold. So I just think they need like a big time Mario or Splatoon or Zelda coming out at the same time. But I don't know. How do you guys feel in that comment section down below? Are you hyped for the Nintendo Switch 2? I honestly am, especially as someone who's had one since 2017. I think we're due for an upgrade, especially, considering I think the external hardware is not holding up as well as I would have liked it to. Though it's surprising the amount of performance devs are able to get out of this thing till this day. Sorry for the lack of uploads, guys. Again, like I said at the beginning of the video, I've been fighting for my life at work, been working crazy hours, but hopefully I can pump out more content soon. I have some, bigger videos planned, hint, hint, so watch out for those. But this has been your man, Shattuck Stick. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Follow your boy on X and, now recently Blue Sky. I've been using that a ton. And then use the links to also join the Discord down below. But this is me, your man, Shattuck Stick. I'm out of here. Remember, Hot Faraga turns to Cold Blizzaga. Chill out with some of my other videos. Peace, and have a good one. Thank you guys for getting me to over 300 subs. Let's try to make 500 by the mid-time this year.